Imagine this, a new therapy is discovered. It has the power to transform lives, to ease the suffering of millions of people living with a chronic, debilitating condition. The science is there, the medicine works, but then comes the harder question. Will patients ever get access to it?
So innovation is about us not giving you a drug. The innovation is where everyone comes together and say, I now have an innovative drug for that one patient, for that one purpose that it's supposed to solve. And then at the end of the day, you save a life. Pharma cannot be the only one responsible. It's a collaborative effort.
For some patients, this battle decides whether they will see that medicine in their lifetime or not at all. That battle is called market access.
And I say that because truth hurts. And as a leader, you cannot start fluffing around. And as a leader, when I start fluffing around stories and not getting to the point, it hurts. It hurts me because that's not the right thing to do. It hurts the person who's listening to it thinking, oh, everything is bright and shiny when it is not. You really need to be truthful. You need to obviously say it in a way that is empathetic. And I think, to me, that is the painful part.
And today, we are going inside the mind of one of its most respected leaders. Dr. Arup Pramanik is a physician by training with advanced degrees in health economics and business. Over the past 2 decades, he has held senior leadership roles at Pfizer, Novartis, Shire, Indivior, and today serves as corporate vice president of market access at Boehringer Ingelheim. And if you had to redesign market access from scratch, what are the first 3 principles you would build it on?
So, first of all, you have to understand the science. The second is you have to understand where this is going to be available. To do that, you have to understand the economics, the value and the hurdles, both regulatory and payer in country. The third element is, can you build a trustworthy relationship within your organization and with the stakeholders to say, I want this journey to last even after the registration and approval.
In this conversation, we'll talk about the real forces that shape where the medicines reach people, the future of access in a world of digital and AI-driven healthcare, and Arup's personal philosophy on leadership, equity, and building a career with purpose. So let's begin. Arup, welcome to Drug Diaries. Before we jump into today's episode, I just want to say something from the heart. Over 93% of the people who watch this podcast regularly haven't subscribed. And listen, I get it. Life is busy. You click, you watch, you move on. But if you've ever felt like this show brings you value, if it has made you think, sparked a new idea, introduced you to something inspiring, then I have a small favor to ask. Please hit that subscribe button. It might not seem like much, but to me, it means everything. This podcast has always been a labor of love. No sponsors, no script, just honest conversations with people trying to make a difference in the world of healthcare. And your support, your one click, helps me keep doing that. It helps more people discover these voices. It helps this community grow. So if you're here, if you believe in this, please consider subscribing. Thank you for being here. Now let's get into the episode. Behind every life-saving medicine, there's a question no one sees. Who will actually get it? Imagine this. A new therapy is discovered. It has the power to transform lives, to ease the suffering of millions of people living with a chronic, debilitating condition. The science is there, the medicine works, but then comes the harder question. Will patients ever get access to it? Behind every breakthrough drug you hear about, there's a battle that follows. Navigating reimbursement, pricing, health economics, and the complex politics of healthcare systems around the world. For some patients, this battle decides whether they will see that medicine in their lifetime or not at all. That battle is called market access. And today, we are going inside the mind of one of its most respected leaders. Dr. Arup Pramanik is a physician by training with advanced degrees in health economics and business. Over the past 2 decades, he has held senior leadership roles at Pfizer, Novartis, Shire, Indivior, and today serves as corporate vice president of market access at Boehringer Ingelheim. He has built a reputation not just for shaping global access strategies, but for championing health equity and for asking the deeper question, what good is innovation if it doesn't reach the patient? In this conversation, we'll talk about the real forces that shape where the medicines reach people, the future of access in a world of digital and AI-driven healthcare, and Arup's personal philosophy on leadership, equity, and building a career with purpose. So let's begin. Arup, welcome to Drug Diaries.
Thank you. I'm humbled by your introduction. I'm not sure whether I qualify for everything that you said, but it's been a humbling journey.
You're so modest. And Arup, you are one of the most celebrated and remarkable industry leaders that I've known. And I think the industry knows you for your accomplishments, your incredible contribution to the field of market access and equity. But I want to take a step back. And if I asked you not about your title, but about your story, how would you describe who you are today?
It's a very personal question. Who I am today is, I think I'm the same person, but I have in many ways been very fortunate to work with different companies, with great people, great minds who have helped shape me to what I am today. So all that you said is simply built on the trust, support, the challenges that has been faced and successes we've met. So to me, I am today what I am simply because of all those who are around me that have helped me get into this journey to this point in time.
That's a very crisp and very concise answer that hits the nail. And Arup, you've worked across some of the biggest names in the industry: Pfizer, Novartis, Shire, Indivior, and now Boehringer Ingelheim. What has that journey taught you about what really matters in leadership and impact?
I think, so I'll be very honest. As you grow in your career, something that has always driven me is be honest. We learn and we learn to understand the failures and success. We learn to understand, as you said, right? Sometimes great innovation may never reach people. But as long as your faith is, getting there, working with the best teams for all those, I think the leadership is one where try to be empathetic, try to challenge, and most importantly, be honest. And that takes you very far. It does have its limitation, but I think honesty is probably the key to being a good leader, a friend, and someone that people may not like, but they will come to trust.
Very well said. And your authenticity, your honesty, it shines through so clearly. So thank you for that. And Arup, market access is one of those areas most people outside the industry don't fully understand, yet it shapes whether medicines ever reach patients. So let's demystify it and explore what you've learned leading global access strategies across different therapeutic areas. You've led market access strategies across inflammation, neuroscience, and rare diseases. What's the most misunderstood truth about market access that people don't talk about enough?
Yeah, so I think you've said that in your question, right? Market access is a little bit of a mix. It's probably that one organizational team that is a mix of many breeds of people: health economists and outcomes researchers, pricing folks, strategy teams, patient reported outcomes, and core teams. Now, when someone talks to us in Access, they will say, come on, give me a price. Can we make this price happen in a country? What they forget is this team is also a business leadership team because you will never be able to sell a therapy unless you understand your environment. And all of them are working for a for profit organization that has to deliver its numbers, whether you like it or not. I don't think people quite understand that this is a business unit on its own with highly competent people working within an organization. I think it's not about a price, it's about the value you bring to your customer at the end, wherever they are in any part of the world.
Very well said. And drug discovery is such an expensive process, goes through decades of research and development and clinical trials, and that does have an impact on the price. And if someone expects a pharma company to drop the price instantly, then it is a business question.
Sorry for me to smile, but I'm just reflecting the current political situation. Drop the price instantly.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Arup, what are some of the most complex access or pricing environments you've worked in? And how do you navigate the tension between value, innovation, and affordability?
Yeah, that sort of keeps us awake. Not just access teams or medical teams or commercial teams, right? It's a joint effort. So let's phrase it this way. You have to really go back in time, right? Talk about innovation. You want innovation to go to the right person at the right time. And you sort of should divide that a little bit differently. Why are you having this drug when there are other drugs out there? What does this drug do that others do not do? Have you understood that patient journey? Not a multitude of other things, but have you sort of looked at it not from population health, but a micro segment of that patient in that journey? What do you believe this intervention would you do? At what point of time would it do for what country? And what are the legal as well as the regulatory and the payer attributes that increase, the unlikeliness of it to get? However, by thinking, far ahead, you then think, what does it take to break those barriers? What do you incorporate in a trial? Where do you make this drug available? When do you do that? And it's a thinking process that starts 7 to 8 years before launch. If everyone believes you can do this 2 years before launch simply because you got a drug pre registered, that's where everything starts to fail. And to be honest, the pressure is not so much on corporate as it is for the country who are being told by corporate, you got this drug, go launch it. And if you don't think this through, not at the corporate, but at a country, it'll be very difficult to do reimbursement and access to individuals in those countries where they're supposed to get it for that one individual who needs it at the right time.
Right. I totally agree. And when you think about how value based models are evolving, what does real innovation look like to you in this space?
Everyone, Susanna and I ponder on this question. Innovation, is it pharma driven innovation? I think not. When you think of innovation, we can come up with innovative pricing models and access models. Innovation is about multi party stakeholders. The payer has to believe that I've got a drug that works within a subset. I have a mechanism where the manufacturer says, I can work with you. I have physicians who say, this is what works for that subpopulation. And you create an ecosystem so that you understand that the patient gets the right outcome. So innovation is about us not giving you a drug. The innovation is where everyone comes together and say, I now have an innovative drug for that one patient, for that one purpose that it's supposed to solve. And then at the end of the day, you save a life, you reduce cost, and you improve quality. And more importantly, the ecosystem does appreciate innovation when you are collaboration. It's not about cutting the price. Innovation is a group of people coming together and say, I'll find a solution for you. Pharma cannot be the only one responsible. It's a collaborative effort.
That's uh, that's a very radical perspective, and I haven't heard anyone say that before. And it's so true. It's so true. I totally agree. And Arup, you've spoken about the importance of stakeholder partnership and access. What does effective collaboration look like, and where do you where do you think companies still get it wrong? And I think partly you've answered this question, but I would like to dive deeper into it.
I think it's a behavioral thing. We are creatures of habit, right? So I've had the chance of working in marketing in Pfizer, I had to pick up this, the bag to sell. I run medical teams and access teams and strategy teams. As creatures of habit, we tend to think we know better than somebody else. And I think where we fail is we don't open up to crazy ideas. We don't open up to challenging ourselves to say, could we do something better? And this groupism of, I think I know better, I've done this, and not be open to challenging ourselves puts us in a little bit of trouble. I mean, look, every company that I've had a chance to work with are great companies. But within them, those great companies, everyone has a hat that they wear. Very few have multiple hats. And I think where companies do better is where there is a cohesive environment, that there's a conversation which is fluid and not, something that has to be structured. It isn't just a policy conversation. And I think when you come together, you think out of the box, roll up your sleeves, they then begin to percolate down. People get the idea and then they run. Um, so I come back to the fact that silo mentality kills ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about the future of access, I think that the next decade is going to transform healthcare in ways we've never seen before. AI, digital health, precision medicine. I want to understand how you see these shifts shaping the future of access and the challenges that lie ahead. And we are at the frontier of AI, digital health, and personalized medicine. What excites you most and what keeps you up at night? about how these trends will impact access models globally?
Yeah, it was a great question. You know, let's make it. So I'll sort of bucket it as production production for a vast population of patients, right? Think of the world of obesity. It's a mass of individuals. Okay, the variation between 18%, 20% reduction of weight between 6 months to 8 months. Let's go. End of the day, when you think of precision medicine, is of that number of patients who benefited it most. Now, precision medicine hasn't taken place because there are some subset of patients who do better than others, some who don't. When you begin to start moving into oncology and rare disease, it's that one patient. What we forget in many a time is when we do volume sales, we say this number of patients will be treated. But I'm a patient, I'm a physician. I can tell you that when I talk to my doctor, I'm expecting him to know me as a patient. When I treat the patient, I see the patient as the patient. And I think this is what we need to do. So for me, if you ask yourself, how often do you see a doctor? How much time does he have? He has no time for you. So if you start at the root of the problem is doctors don't have time. Patients are never able to tell their story. They feel they cannot. And when doctors don't have time, you get into type 1 and type 2 errors. Not the fault of a physician or the fault that the medicine isn't working. The ecosystem is not built. So I believe AI is going to help us in many more ways than one. AI is not supposed to help us in population health. AI is going to tell me my patient has the following risk. My patient has diseases and comorbid conditions which I or somebody else misdiagnosed. AI will come to play as an assistant. Think of agentic AI. They don't tell me what to do. It helps me become a better physician. The pharma industry gives me therapies which help me do better. The physician then is empowered by saying, "Hey, doc, before I've come, I've answered some questions." The algorithms help the physician, the ecosystem, and you reduce cost. You treat earlier, and the burden of a patient to the family is less. So, AI will play a huge role, and I think pharma has to realize it's no more just a therapy. It's a whole compendium of diagnostic tools working with ecosystem that makes it easier in the journey. So it isn't taking a tablet and solving a problem. It's solving a problem together in an ecosystem, right patient at the right.
Right. And in your experience, how do you think the market is catching up with this new reality? Have you come across any countries or physicians or any institutions where they've already adopted these sort of technologies and are using it already?
Right. So we've got very good AI infrastructure in the Nordic countries. We got very good structure in the NHS.
Yeah.
So we were recently in conversations, and I'll just pick the name Mayo. I mean, Mayo, Cleveland, many other institutions are they've got a lot of powered AI tools. In the most recent conversation, I mean, Mayo is obviously having multiple vendors. They are trying to help their patients solve problems. So, and we do realize that even when hospitals are trying to use AI, they're still not there.
Mm.
They are getting there. And I think as organizations and governments come together, they will get better. I mean, is that a really good one? Everyone says they've got a good story. And when I ask simple questions, can you tell me this exact patient's outcome? We're still scratching the surface, but the intent is there. And I know we will get there soon. Maybe in the next 3 to 5 years, maybe sooner.
Hope it comes to fruition sooner than that.
I'm
Arup,
sure it will.
right. And Arup, health equity is clearly something you're really passionate about, especially in low and middle income countries. What needs to change structurally to make healthcare truly inclusive?
It's a tough one, right? I mean, let's be honest, life is not easy for a lot of people. And that's just how life is. You may get the rich in America and the poor in America. You get the rich in the middle income, lower income countries, and you get the poor. And it's very unfortunate. I mean, so let's take the low and middle income countries. Take Brazil, for example. If you're rich, you could sue the government and you can get the best treatment. Mexico, if you're rich, you fly over to the United States and you get treated. But the vast majority will not get access to innovation. However, the ecosystems in those countries allow for therapies, maybe generics, to be available to patients that do treat the individual. There are ecosystems where organizations like us allow patients through special access mechanisms treatment, which are named patients. So every pharma is doing it. And many pharmas have tried innovative drug models wherein you do a tiered pricing, you do innovative branding of therapies. At the same time, you want to protect your patent because one has to realize that governments start doing whatever they want, and simply because they cannot control a high price or a generic tries to come in, they get expedited or there are parallel imports. So I think what many companies are doing, there are great examples where you out license, you do second brands and you third brands and you do means testing. There are multiple mechanisms which have been done, which continue to be done, and I guess must be done because if you really want your therapy and it's novel, you will find a solution. I mean, we've worked in Africa, in Southeast Asia, India, Vietnam, and other countries, to name a few. There are a few models that have worked. Pharma also has to realize you're not going to make tons of money because straight off you're looking at very low margins. And the operating costs of some of these access programs require teams to be able to ensure that what is given to a country isn't just siphoned off to another patient in another country. So, like I said, in everything, it has to be innovation at a country, at an institution, to the patient collaboratively. It's not about a price which is low, but
Mhm.
something that innovation comes together. So that ecosystem has to work.
Right. And if you had to redesign market access from scratch, what are the first three principles you would build it on?
First of all, let's first understand why why this is needed. In the sense that as we think about therapies, we always know there is an unmet need. But in that unmet need, which subsection of patients and I'm going to treat when? So first of all, you have to understand the science. The second is you have to understand where this is going to be available. To do that, you have to understand the economics, the value, and the hurdles, both regulatory and payer in country. So if you understood the science and you understand at country what you need to do, then I guess the third element is can you build a trustworthy relationship within your organization and with the stakeholders to say, I want this journey to last even after the registration and approval. With that in mind, and you have in your mind, here's my 8 to 10 year plan for that one therapy, you will be successful. By that time, you'd have shaped the market. You've understood the gaps. You've understood the external environment, and you'll be able to fine tune and take aim exactly where you want this to be delivered.
Right. And what's one belief you hold as a leader that you didn't 10 years ago? Sorry, that's a completely different topic.
Well, honestly, see, every day I learn something new. 10 years ago, I was 10 years less wiser than I am today. So 10 years ago, I'm just grateful that in this last 10 years, I've learned much more, worked for different organizations, met some brilliant people along that journey. I didn't have that 10 years ago. So, 10 years you learn. And I think that's a journey. It's a day journey. You learn every day. So 10 years ago, I didn't have what I have today.
Right. Very, very well said. And you've got such a remarkable and diverse background. You've studied medicine, economics, and business, and that's a rare blend. How have those lenses shaped the way you think about systems and value and human behavior?
This is a tough one. But you said it right, right? It's human behavior.
Mm,
When you think of human behavior, I think I've been fortunate. I keep saying I'm fortunate because I've had a chance to wear a sales hat, a marketing hat, a strategy hat. And I think it's that human behavior. When you join that team, you think like that team. So when I was in sales, I just thought as what a sales guy was to do. And then I just came out of medicine because I was heading up the medical unit and my boss said, "Arup, you have in Pfizer, they train you to do everything so that make you a better leader."
mm,
That herd mentality was very different. The things that they go through to deliver what gives me my salary was very different from when you were in marketing and telling them how great the brand is. And I think that evolution really helped shape me. And I think that's the that's what you learn. It's the difficult choices you have to make.
mm.
And remembering that you are now reporting to different line managers
Yeah.
whose agendas are very different. And you realize that simply because the KPI is not just sales, KPI is much more than that. And at what level of the organization you're in. So believe me, putting it together is not easy, but you are there for that moment. And I think you learn that with every journey you take. I'm not sure if I've answered your question. I just
It
try
does,
to.
yeah. It does. And it very nicely leads me into my next question. What's been the hardest decision you've had to make as a leader? And what did it teach you about yourself?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, I think the one thing that is the tough one, strangely, is truth. And I say that because truth hurts. And as a leader, you cannot start fluffing around. And as a leader, when I start fluffing around stories and not getting to the point, it hurts.
Mm,
It hurts me because that's not the right thing to do. It hurts the person who's listening to it thinking, oh, everything is bright and shiny when it is not. And if you don't have that truth, which is painful, I don't think I've not. I mean, look, it's painful, right? I mean, it's painful for an organization to be honest and truthful, but I think you really need to be truthful. You need to obviously say it in a way that is empathetic. And I think to me, that is the painful part, How truthful can you be to whom and when?
yeah. And if you were to take us to a situation that you can think of in terms of the hardest decision you had to make.
It's coming back to that truth, right? When you have to let people go, or when you have to tell a company that it's a great drug and this is not really the greatest, and you have to find solution. And I will not name instances because I know you've talked to many leaders. And this the conversation goes back to the truth. Now I have to tell someone, I think it is time to go. We've given you the best. Go back to the organization and say, I think here's some flaws we have to fix. If you don't fix, here's what happens. People don't want to hear the truth at times, but you have to do it because you're trying to solve the problem. If you don't do this, others will tell you what to do and it's too late.
Yeah, I agree. And Arup, how do you personally measure success? And has that definition evolved over time?
I think at this point in my career, I think success is measured by the great people you groom, the leaders, the people who think, coaching them, helping them do better in their day to day activities. To me, is that measure of success. And if you do that, profits will come, success will come, and accolades will go to those people. And I think that to me is success. Success is building the best teams possible that you are supposed to lead. And that's the success because the teams you lead are a team of people who would join and lead other teams. So success is, if they're successful, then I can at least say I was part of that successful team.
And when people talk about you behind closed doors, what do you hope they would say about you?
I think most people will say Arup is a crazy guy. Okay.
I don't know.
I hope they obviously, they want to continue to say that I'm absolutely fine. They'll probably say I'm always trying to. They would say this guy is an impatient guy because to me, I have to be because I'm trying to get drugs to a patient every day matters. If they say that, I think I'm happy. But I think the other part is, this is a guy who will tell you the truth if you have to hear one. And yeah, maybe there's that.
And Arup, you've led teams across geographies and cultures. What's one principle you live by when it comes to leading people?
Believe in them, help them, coach them. And more importantly, they are still human beings like me.
It's profound, and I totally agree. What's a daily habit or mindset practice that keeps you grounded amidst the pace and pressure?
I think honestly, what helps me is this morning meditation. I'll go cuckoo if I don't. That helps me. It, settles my mind. I've got a, you know, wonderful family. My wife is supportive. My kids are supportive. They ground me. And that's brings me back to here's where I am. I'm here. I've got a family. I love them as much as they love me. I've got great friends whom I can sit down and have a chat with. And that human belief in your own emotional and spiritual beliefs takes you very far.
What advice would you give to young professionals trying to build meaningful careers in pharma today, not just successful ones?
Learn as much as you can. Ask questions as much as you can. Don't ask questions because you want to show people how smart you are. Ask questions because you genuinely want to learn, and your questions might stimulate thought. Be honest, and if you are honest, truthful, you're willing to learn and willing to do, it'll go very far in life. Just be honest and truthful, and I think learn as much as you can. There's so many great people out there that you can learn from.
Absolutely. I think that the thing you said about asking questions may sound very simple, but it is so important because looking at my own background, I think that the sort of culture I grew up in, and maybe it was my specific situation, but asking question wasn't considered very respectful. You are supposed to follow the instructions. So don't ask questions, just keep doing what you're doing. So it took me a lot of courage to break out of that mindset and beginning to ask questions. So it's a very important point you mentioned. And Arup, if you could write a letter to your 25-year-old self, what would you say?
Keep asking questions, be honest, learn as much as you can, and be open to crazy ideas. Those work.
And finally, what do you want your legacy to be? Not just in pharma, but as a person.
Look, our legacy is Arup was a good person. He thought of the patient and he did everything possible to make and try to do to make it happen.
Wow, very succinct. And Arup, that brings us to the end of our today's conversation. And I want to take a moment to thank you, not just for your time today, but for your honesty and your wisdom. And what really stuck me in this conversation is that while market access can sound like systems, frameworks, and economics, at its core, it's about people. And you've reminded us that innovation only matters if it reaches the patient who need it. Your journey from medicine to health economics to business leadership shows what it means to bridge discipline with purpose. And the way you've spoken today, not just as a corporate leader, but as a human being who believes in equity and impact, has been truly inspiring. On behalf of our listeners, thank you for sharing your insights, your philosophy, and your vision for a future where healthcare is not just discovered, but delivered. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on Drug Diaries, Arup.
Kaushik, the pleasure has been mine. I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And honestly, you've been a great host. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.